very late evening to about pre-dawn hours of Thursday morning. May extend to about daybreak on Thursday. A lot of low clouds to about 7, 8 morning, and especially during the afternoon. Clouds thin out. And look at our temperatures, even near the coast, around 60, upper 60s, and lower 70s. Central and southern parts of New Hampshire, clouds and showers, beneficial showers on Friday. Moving up late in the day. Cool. Down north. Mixed likely up north on Sunday. Any early mix likely over to rain in southern parts of the state. Thank you, Jennifer. And that's you up next to Cat area to reveal the winner of its 2022 body contest, and she's a national at the body hop.
Well, but all this month we have been highlighting inspiring New Hampshire women in honor of Women's History Month, and today we recognize Gail Bukowski of Exeter. She's the activity director at the Pioneer Farming Assisted Living Facility, and during the pandemic, Gail has also taken on the roles of hairdresser and prep cook. Mary Legal says Gail and workers like her are the heart of the matter.
Settle in and relax with new furniture from Bernie & Bills. We have furniture fit every style and budget, including many items made in the USA. From high-quality solid wood bedrooms and dining sets to comfy and cozy living rooms. Choose from a variety of options, finishes, and fabrics, including beautiful yet durable sunbrella, all delivered free to your front door. 0% financing for up to 60 months is also available. Check out the latest styles online or in any of our spacious showrooms. We're here to make your life more comfortable at Bernie & Bills.
Oh, maybe I was muted. Okay, good. I had the TV on a little loud and I was hoping it didn't disturb folks. Mr. Young is with us. Thank you for joining us, Bob. Excuse me. Well, there's Walter.
Good evening.
And do we know if Tim's joining us this week?
As I know, didn't hear from him.
I have to say, Walter, I can't hear you. Maybe it's because, oh, Jesus.
Operator,
You'd think I'd know how to work these controls by now, but first I thought I was muted and I wasn't. Then I thought my speakers were on, but they weren't. Okay, I think I'm ready now. So is Tim joining us?
I didn't hear that he wasn't, so I'm assuming he is.
Okay, well then we'll wait a few minutes to see if we can get him. Well, just to update everybody, I was able to run my chipper for several hours today. Works like a champ. I sharpened the teeth that that are on the rotary thing. It pulls the trees right in. Ooh, it's lovely.
You do some roadside work for us?
What's that?
Would you do some roadside work for us too?
No, I don't like to do roadside work because that often includes like dead and dried out things, and that dulls the blades. So no, rent a chipper for that. Yeah.
So Hal, are you making wood chips or are you just cleaning your yard?
Actually, I'm working over at the property that we have just to the south of us. You probably drive by it. It has a sign that says Lucky K Ranch on it.
Oh, yeah.
On 107 there. And when we bought that property, man, it was really overgrown and it was a mess. And not to put too much detail into it, but Bob Bailey helped me. There was weeks at a time when he was over there with me every day with his excavator, just digging and cleaning up stuff. And there was a building ready, an old shingle mill ready to collapse. I mean, it wasn't a real big thing, but.
So did you name it Lucky K because it was so lucky with all that stuff to do?
Yeah, and I'm getting a lot of flack about calling it a ranch too, but we got cattle on it from Jim Watusik, so
There you go.
Technically speaking, it is. Well, I'll tell you what, since it is 6 o'clock, why don't we get started? If Tim joins us, we can just add him to the voting and everything.
He said he's trying, so he should be on soon.
Okay, well, we can do the pledge and a couple of things while he's trying. So as chair of the Northwood Board of as chair of the Northwood Select Board, due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis and in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, we are authorized to meet electronically. There's no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I confirm the following. We're providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional possibilities to join by Zoom and also to view it by YouTube. We're providing public notice of the information to access the meeting via the public notice that we post, and also it's on our website. The mechanism for alerting us if there's problems with the public accessing this meeting are to call 603-340-5711. Again, 603-340-5711. Or email Paul That's P. Allard, A-L-L-A-R-D, at town.northwood.nh.us. And if there's problems with accessing the meeting, it will automatically be adjourned. And you might not necessarily hear us do the adjournment if we have trouble. During the meeting, everything will be done by roll call vote, and we'll start with a roll call for attendance. Matt,
Present.
Beth,
Here.
Pam,
Present.
and Hal. Oh, there's Tim. Hey, glad you could join us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the flowers and everybody's cards and prayers. So
Yeah,
let's get that out of the way.
good, good. Well, we're glad you're back.
Oh, thank you.
We're glad you're back. So you're just in time. We had the roll call. At this time, I'd like to ask everybody to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Just face the nearest flag and pledge the flag, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll now open it up for citizens forum. If any, I did not see any emails or anything. Walter, did you get anything? Or Matt, did you get anything?
I did not.
Everything.
Okay, anybody online wishing to speak, raise your hand or signal. Okay, I'm not hearing or seeing anything, so we're going to move on to ongoing business. First item is the approval of the March 9th minutes. Is there any discussion or comments on them? Tim?
I know I wasn't there, but I got a couple of comments on page 6.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm going to move
Yep.
over there. Page 6.
Beth and I met with Gary Tasker on the top of the page, line 2, not Terry Tasker, Gary.
Oh, okay.
And on line 11, I didn't second the motion because I wasn't at the meeting. So,
Yeah, it's kind of hard, right?
Telepathy. So,
Yeah, well,
so Gary
okay.
and I wasn't there. How's that?
So, does anybody remember who did that, or does anybody want to volunteer to be the seconder? I'm looking for a volunteer.
Put me down. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so any other edits to mention? Anybody else? That was a good catch, Tim.
He wasn't even here.
Yeah, it was
I
good.
do my homework when I'm not here.
Yeah, somebody's paying attention. I'm glad. Okay, so at this point, I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes with the adjustments that we just discussed.
So moved.
Thank you. A second, please. Second by Beth. Any further discussion? If not, Matt, how do you vote?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Tim?
I'll abstain.
Thank you. And I'm a yes. Great. Now we move on to the consent agenda. Walter? Well, first, let me remind everybody again, everything on the consent agenda gets a very detailed review by the board prior to the meeting. Walter, Cheryl, and others send out the details, and we review them in real detail. For example, Beth had questions, on number of hours of overtime and things like that we get straightened out. So these are all reviewed in advance, and what we're trying to do with the consent agenda is streamline things and tell the town what we're approving, but not drag you through all the details of the processes. So Walter, if you would just please list off what is on the consent agenda, I'd appreciate it.
Certainly will. So the consent agenda for March 23rd, 2021 includes an accounts payable manifest dated March 17th, 2021, which is batch number 16460 for $78,138.30. Second item is a payroll manifest dated March 24, 2021, batch number 16469 for $76,835.78. It also includes a report to the selectmen from the treasurer for the month of February. It also includes an abatement recommendation for Flora Gardner, 18 Deerfield Road, and 2 property tax exemptions, one for John Daigle and one for Richard Doust.
Okay, so I'm going to ask first, does anybody have any items to take off the consent agenda and discuss individually? Matt?
I'd like to take the Deerfield Road abatement off the consent agenda.
Okay, the Deerfield Road. Flora Gardner.
Correct.
Oh, okay, yes. Anybody else want to take anything else off the consent agenda?
I just had a question on John Daigle. He has I know it's Lynn Grove, but he has a P.O. box in Epsom, but he's a Northwood resident.
Yes.
Okay, that was my only question. We're good.
Okay, I'd like to just say, this is exactly the way I see the consent agenda working. If you have some minor questions, we address them, we leave them on the agenda. If you have concerns or want to handle something differently, we take it off the consent agenda. So in this case, we're taking off Flora Gardner, 18 Deerfield Road. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with that adjustment?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Tim. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Beth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. Okay, at this point then, we're going to move on to the abatement recommendation for Flora Gardner. Matt, since you wanted to take it off, do you want to explain your thinking on that? And
Sure. Mostly my concern is that we don't actually have a recommendation for that particular abatement. This was one of the circumstances where taxpayer was at a zero tax due to the elderly exemption. And then with the revaluation and the rate wherever it be set, was owing taxes, property taxes for the first time in a while. My concern is whatever we choose to do with this property is going to set a certain degree of precedent for everyone else who's in the same situation.
yeah. Does anybody else want to comment on what Matt said? Okay, I would like to add my 2 cents on this. I read through her request, and it does not appear that there's a concern or even challenge to the assessment itself, but it does include notation that she can't afford to pay her taxes. And, I can understand that situation given that she wasn't paying taxes because she was below the exemption value. So my thought on this is she's not challenging the assessment itself. And so my thinking is we need to ask her if she can't pay her taxes to file the appropriate hardship paperwork, and then we can take the appropriate action based on that. But Matt, I think you're alluding to my concern, which is if we start saying, well, no, we'll lower your assessment because you can't afford the taxes, everybody will be in here asking for that. Yeah. And, rightfully so. If somebody has trouble paying their taxes, we should evaluate that and give them a shot at getting some relief. I'm seeing heads nodding. Do we want to ask Walter to reach out to her and ask her to file that hardship, or how do we want to handle it?
Let's go about doing the right paperwork in order, and comes around again, we'll get
Then
more information on it.
Okay. Does anybody disagree with that approach, or Beth?
I don't disagree. I have a question. So then I'd be worried that if she's late, she'll be accruing late fees, and that's just going to put her further behind. So is there a certain date? Did she already miss the cutoff date to do that, or?
Walter, what do you think?
Well, the law states that if the taxes are unpaid, they're subject to interest. If there's an abatement granted and the taxes are paid, then it's abated plus interest on the overpayment if there is an overpayment. So, there's, at this point in time, it was filed timely, and the board has until June 1st to make a decision on all the abatements. So, but we can certainly require more information. I'll make 2 points, 2 FYIs. Number one, when you're talking about specific individuals, that does allow you to discuss it in non-public session, especially when you're talking about more financial information.
Good point.
And then number two, obviously the assessor, as you mentioned, Matt, didn't see any issue with the assessed valuation, but there is a provision under the law that does allow for an abatement based on the person's ability to pay. So my recommendation would be to table it. We can seek more personal financial information and bring it back and review it in non-public session at the next meeting.
Is everybody in agreement on that? Do we have consensus on that?
Need a motion to table it or just?
That's what I was just going to ask Walter.
Okay.
If you agree by consensus, that's fine.
Okay. Anybody disagree? Okay, and Walter, just help me out if you would, please. If I start to do stuff like that again, where I'm discussing a non-public matter in public, just, stop me. I don't mind you saying something.
Did raise your hand, but you didn't say it.
Yeah. Okay, very good. I guess that's it for the consent agenda. Do we want to move on to the second reading of the capital asset policy and administrative rules associated therewith?
Certainly. So the policy that was presented at the last meeting was posted for public notice. And to this point, I haven't received any comments. I don't know if Cheryl did, but
I have
did.
not. No.
Okay.
Did any of the select board members receive anything?
No.
No, I did not. Okay, so then what's the process here, Walter? Do we need to, can we just summarize again, or do we have to read through the darn thing?
I think Cheryl can just summarize, and then if there's no other comments or recommended changes from the board, then we'll put it on the agenda for the April meeting to approve.
Oh, so we can't approve it at this meeting?
I don't have it, unless it's not going to be amended. I mean, we technically can, but if there's no other amendments, we can adopt it as originally presented.
Does anybody have it? I mean, I know there was discussion about straight line versus accelerated depreciation and stuff, but Cheryl addressed all those. And I guess I'm thinking back to your comments that it's more the policy that we want to focus on as a select board. You and Cheryl have the ability to do the fine tuning when it comes to things like the number of years and, that type of thing. Personally, I'm ready to approve it. How's the other board members feel? Pam?
Question.
What?
Yeah. Second reading, capital asset policy, administrative rules. Where the heck is it? I know we've had it in the earlier packet, but I'm going through here and I'm not seeing it. Is it somewhere buried, or are we just assuming
It's the
that
same.
we've all read it in the past?
Well,
I'd like to have it in front of me again.
okay. Well, if you're concerned about that, it wasn't in the packet. It was in the previous weeks or previous meetings. So
Right, and if
then,
we're not going to read it, then yeah, I'd want to see it.
well, that's, I guess, really what I'm asking. Do you want Cheryl to go over it, or do we want to, yeah, let's let Cheryl go over it, and then we can take the next step as to whether we want to go any further.
Why don't we do the proper thing and tell me where it is?
It's
And
in,
I will,
it's in the packet from last week.
so the 3-9 packet,
Yeah, sorry, last meeting, sorry.
is it in the revised packet or in
Oh, Walter,
the,
am I mistaken on that?
Yeah, you're correct.
all
Yeah,
right? And yeah, I would be more comfortable seeing it than just having a abridged or a summary if we're going to vote.
okay. You want to go over it, Cheryl?
Sure. Okay. We have the capital assets policy part, which is for the Board of Selectmen to basically finalize. Starts with section 1, which is the purpose that explains that this policy is to ensure that we're in compliance with GASB number 34, that requires us to depreciate our capital assets in our financial statements. And the section 2 of the objectives is to provide control and accountability of the fixed assets and ensuring that all records are properly classified accurately and systematically, and to ensure that the adequate information is necessary on all the assets so that we can have complete financial statements. Section 3 is various definitions that you will find throughout the policy and the administrative rules. Section 4 just states that the Board of Selectmen have the authority to adopt this policy under RSA 3139 and 41:8. Section 5 is just a general policy stating that all items that have that the town purchases that have a useful life of more than a year and a value of more than $5,000 would be considered a capital asset and be under this policy. And items that we purchase that are less than 5,000 are not considered fixed assets unless they are part of another piece of equipment or structure that all combined together would be more value than $5,000. That's the only way we would classify something under 5,000 if it was part of another part of a capital asset. Section 6 is describing the different categories of assets, if you will, and excuse me, sorry, purchase assets, and it describes everything that would be considered a purchased asset, whether it's fixtures that go along with a building or that type of thing. Donated assets, if someone were to donate property or equipment or whatnot, that would be considered. All land is, although it doesn't, we don't depreciate land under the policy, but we do have to record it. And all infrastructure, roadways, bridges, storm drains, that type of thing. Pam has her hand up.
Yep, go
Yes,
ahead,
I
Pam.
do. Thank you. I finally got the file to open. Thank you. I'm looking at section 4 depreciation examples, and then it goes to section 7, and you just read section 6. Am I missing a section on this prior packet, or
You are looking at the capital assets administrative rules section. I was starting to go through the policy section. There's two
Okay.
separate.
All right, so hold on one second,
Sure.
please. So capital administrative rules, and you're saying it's followed by,
Capital assets policy.
okay, hold on. I'm scrolling.
Policy
Capital-
is before the rules. Yeah.
Yeah, go
All right,
back, Pam. It's before. Yeah.
Let me go back. Scrolling. I get to, all right, 7, section 6. Thank you so very much. And I'm just going to scroll back to see what my notes are. I use a CAMI function on the PDFs. So when I'm working with CAMI on the PDF, I'm doing comments and highlighting as I go along. So I just wanted to go back through on the things that I had highlighted and made notes upon. So thank you for letting me pull this file up. And you may continue on with your, what, section 7?
Yes. Did you have any questions up until section 7 or?
No, I'm looking and no comments or notes at this point.
Okay. All right. Section 7 is the actual different classifications of the assets, and that would be land, land improvements, buildings, building improvements, machinery, equipment, and vehicles, all kind of grouped together, infrastructure, and then construction in progress, which construction in progress, like land, is not depreciated, but we need to account for it. And then when it is completed, then it becomes part of the infrastructure or building or whatever is being made. We are using the straight line method. And assuming that it has the same depreciation amount for every year.
Pam has a question there on that.
That's what happens when you let me take notes. I have a note here that Hal raised the question of accelerated depreciation, such as on vehicles.
Right.
And what was the resolution of that? Is that somewhere else, or is everything just considered straight line?
Well,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
The discussion centered around whether or not that would be appropriate for certain items. And what we concluded was that because Cheryl and Walter have the ability to make the adjustments in this part without the board necessarily having to take action, we felt it was okay to go with the times or useful lives that are in here. And if we start finding out that some things like, let's say our pickup truck goes faster than we thought, or something like that, then they can make those adjustments, and they don't need board approval to do so because it's in this section of the document as opposed to the policy section. So we felt we didn't need to do anything on that.
So for Cheryl's answer, anything like a accelerated depreciation would just come in here under section 8, or?
We wouldn't necessarily be doing anything called an accelerated depreciation. We're just going to go straight line, but we can, when we are seeing trends and we need to alter things a little bit, we can alter the expected life of whatever the asset is.
Sorry.
It'll be a case by case basis.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. But for consistency, we're just going to handle everything like straight line depreciation.
Thank you. Gotcha.
Okay. So that brings me to the capital assets administrative rules. And that basically shows, there's a chart that shows what classification of assets, whether it needs to be inventoried, capitalized, and depreciated, depending on what kind of classification it is. It's just a little guide to help people figure out what they should be doing with particular assets. There is a section for new assets when we purchase something that half a year's depreciation would be considered for that first year, regardless of what actual month the new asset was added. We have a table of the useful lives under section 3.5, and that is where, depending on historical data and what we find is actually happening, that's where we could adjust the useful life of certain categories of items if we feel we need to do that. And then section 4 is some examples of depreciation and how it would look year after year when over a certain for a certain purchase. And bear with me here a second. There is a section, department heads responsible for completing the capital asset change form, which is a form that will be included with the policy. And it's basically just a form to let the finance department know which piece of equipment you're adding or transferring or disposing of or whatever, so that we can have a paper trail that shows what assets went where and for what value, and to help with the financial statements at the end of the year. And that's pretty much the summary in a nutshell.
Okay, so questions on or comments on the content?
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Welcome.
I'd like to say thank you to Cheryl. That thank you for going through it again, but thank you for the hard work on this, and it's necessary, very
Yeah.
necessary.
You're
Yep.
welcome. You're welcome.
This was on the audit list for years. So Cheryl, to get this accomplished within the first few months, it's really good.
Good.
Great job.
Get that out of the way.
Yeah. I have a related question, and I know I asked you a little bit about this last meeting. You assured me that since you see all the POs and stuff, you'll make sure we get all the right records. Do you anticipate doing any training, or do you just think you can do it just by, as the purchase orders come up, tell people?
I think, obviously, I'm going to have department heads sign a form saying that they have the policy and have read the policy, and I will keep that. But beyond that, I don't think there is necessarily any training. I will just keep an eye on it as far as the purchases that come through and making sure that I have the paperwork to go with it. Because, you know, at the end of the year, the auditors are going to be coming and looking at me for the answers. So I'm going to make sure I have it all together.
Good, good. Okay, so does anybody on the board have any concerns with the content itself, or do you think we could move forward on this tonight? I'm seeing a lot of head nods. Walter, what's the appropriate motion that we want to adopt this?
Basically, just a motion to adopt the capital asset policy as presented.
Do I have that motion?
So moved.
How about a second?
Second.
Second, thank you, Pam. Okay, so now I'll open it up for discussion. I'm not hearing any discussion, so Pam.
You did a really good job dumbing down policies for me, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
It was a good summary.
It was really good, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so Pam, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. Well, congratulations, Cheryl. It's the first one under your belt. That's good.
Thank you very much.
Great, good job. Yeah, after the meeting, I'm going to celebrate.
Thank you for helping me find it.
Yeah, okay. Walter, we're going to move on to TA reports. Why don't you work your way down your list?
Okay, very good. So the first item on the report tonight is just again to update on staffing. We're continuing to advertise and receive and review applications for the building inspector, health and code enforcement officer, and also for the recreation director position. We've begun to schedule interviews for the inspector's position for those that are qualified, and we'll continue to do that as they come in. So that's the two positions that we're focusing on right now. Surplus vehicle sale.
Excuse me, Walter. Are we getting any bites on these?
Well, yes. Yes. We are getting some applications.
Good.
Yep. Again, some qualified, some not so much, but you know, we're getting some that I think are certainly worth evaluating and perhaps interviewing.
Great.
Good.
So I just wanted to mention the 2007 highway 1 ton will be posted for bids with a submission date on that of April 12th. The road weight limits have been posted, and they're all to until further notice, again, depending on weather conditions and how things dry out and so forth. I think so far so good. Roads are holding up pretty well, but we haven't had any rain either, so.
It's definitely mud season,
But just mud season.
at least where I live.
And again, Chris is managing, the traffic as far as vehicles that may, request using the roads that are over the limit on an as-needed basis. And I did want to mention too that we discovered an old form that was used for providing waivers and so forth as requested, and it was somewhat out of date in terms of, number one, it required the Board of Selectmen's approval, which, as you know, could be up to a 2-week delay, which doesn't seem very practical. So as long as there's no objections, I'd like to be authorized to sign those along with Chris when they're requested. And then we did some tweaking on the form in terms of requiring a little bit more information, and then be having the ability to either require a bond or not require a bond, depending on what the time frame will be, if it's a single use, that type of thing, or a long-term use, those type of variables. So that's.
What's the board's pleasure on that?
I don't think it makes any sense to require board approval for those exemptions. I'd certainly be happy to change that policy to allow the TA and the Public Works foreman to do that in conjunction.
Tim, I see you're nodding your head also. You agree? Yeah. Beth, how do you feel?
That's fine, yep.
And Pam?
Now I regret not having to sign more papers.
Well, we'll come up with something, I'm sure. But in this one in particular, you're okay giving it up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've delegated this to you and Chris, so it doesn't make sense to me either.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't, especially as I said, if somebody made a request tomorrow, it could be,
Yeah, and you need to get in.
before they get it.
We need to vote on this, Walter, or is just consensus good enough?
Consensus is good. Yeah,
Okay.
as good as a vote.
Okay, good.
So the next item is committees, commissions, and board reappointments. There's a list in your packet. There was a revised list that was sent out with the revised consent agenda of individuals that the board, I should say, individuals that terms are expiring or have expired, and are up for consideration for reappointment. They have all indicated that they would be interested, but obviously it's the will of the board in terms of whether or not you decide to reappoint them. So if you'd like to go down the list, you can go down the list.
Why don't you read off the list so everybody knows, including the public?
Okay. So the first one is Justin Miller for the Zoning Board of Adjustment, the 3-year term, which will expire on March 31 of 2024. Robert Young, Emergency Management Committee, 3-year term expiring on March 31, 2024. Janice Cofill, Recreation Commission, 3-year term until 3/31/2024. Stephen Bailey for the Town Facilities Committee, 3-year till 3/31/24. Stephen Bailey, Emergency Management Committee, 3-year term till 3/31/24. Winnie Young, Conservation Commission, 3-year term until 3/31/24. Fred Bowman, Conservation Commission, who actually expired in 2020. So his appointment would run through 3/31/23. And Pam Sanderson to the Zoning Board of Adjustments, again, till 3/31/23.
So Pam, you have your hand up. It came up when your name came up.
Well, you've already voted on me, and I appeared and signed my paperwork, so I'm done. I expired earlier this year, back when we lost our previous chairman, and so I already came up and was renewed.
Yeah, that was
That should be.
I don't know. I think we should look into that.
They've given a minute somewhere.
Beth, did you have a question?
I have a question. Steve Bailey, we asked him if he wanted to be on the town facility committee when we redid it last year. He said no. So did he really want to be on it again? Because we asked him, what was it, September, August? I don't know. When we merged the two committees?
Everybody that expires in 2021 was sent a letter requesting their desires either to be reappointed or not. And so this is based on that response. And he responded that he would be interested in being reappointed.
Okay, because he hadn't gone, so
So if you're gonna be on the committee, you're going to show up without, obviously, emergency stuff.
Yeah.
Because I've been told by outside sources, he just wants to be on the committee, but doesn't want to go to any of the meetings. So if
Well,
you're gonna be on a committee, we ought to be on
we need to
a
participate.
board.
Yeah.
or I'd be on every committee. No, like
No, I don't want to be the bad person here, but if he just wants to keep his name around town, and doesn't come to the meetings,
Why don't you start, taking attendance at the meetings and you can take it from there? I mean, it is really up to the committees, to manage their individual members. And if there's an issue, then I think you can start with the committee, and then if there's still concerns, I guess bring it to the select board. Is that correct, Walter?
Yes, I mean, the select board has the ultimate authority for making these
Yeah.
appointments. So if, for some reason, if somebody's not, contributing or whatever, and there's somebody, that would take that place, I mean, certainly the board has the ability to,
Okay.
rescind the appointment and replace the person.
I think that I know when my husband was on the budget committee, you could only be out or miss like so many meetings, or you were off the committee. Is that a rule for all the committees, or was that just I don't know?
That was on the budget committees. That was specifically a budget committee rule. They have their own list
Okay,
of
so just
like 2
budget
pages
committee.
of
Okay.
rules.
I don't know if it was a rule for all committees or just.
The other committees may adopt something similar, but I know that the budget committee adopts that set of
Yeah.
a set of rules that includes that. Okay, so Walter, what do we need to do here? A general vote on all of them together, lump sum?
Technically, you do need to appoint them individually. I put a motion in there for you in the my report. It's just to approve the individual for the such and such a committee expiring on March 31, 24.
Walter, I'm looking here. Oh, sorry. So do you want me to read and vote on each one, Walter?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, geez, I lost it now. What happened? Oh, the page jumped. Sorry. Okay, so we'll work our way down through. I need a motion to appoint Justin Miller to the zoning board for a 3-year term until 3/31/24. Do I have that motion?
so move.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Roll call vote. Tim,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Okay, next up is Robert Young for Emergency Management Committee, 3-year term until 3/31/24. Do I have that motion?
Just keep it rolling, Tim. You got all
Yes,
the
so moved.
second.
Okay, roll call vote. Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Janice Copill for Rec Commission, 3-year term, 3/31 until 3/31/24.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call vote. Beth,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Tim,
Yep.
Matt,
Yes.
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Next is Steve Bailey for Town Facilities Committee, 3-year term until 3/31/24. Do I have a motion for that?
I like to, I'll move it. Okay, you have discussion on that?
After the second?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like the chairman or the 2 co-chairmen of that facilities committee to, address it with him and state it out, if he doesn't want to come to the meetings, if he wants to be outside with like an advisory position, so there's something for the committee vice chair and chair, to do something with that.
Okay. Does everybody on the board feel okay with that?
So I think that committee would need to make a motion with internal to the committee to adopt rules and then pass those rules in a committee vote, right?
Yeah, if it's not already in a set of rules that they have, I think that may be the first thing for, to ask Walter to check that. Like I say, I know the budget committee has a set, but I don't know, I mean, just for example, my guess is on the Conservation Commission, they have something similar because Linda's so organized and stuff, but I just don't know how it extended to all the other committees. So we'll just have to check that first. And then, yeah, you handle it. And then if there's things that need to come back to the board, you have to let us know. Okay, so are we ready to vote on that then? So again, this is Steve for the town facilities for 3 years until 3/31/24. So Pam, how do you vote? Tim,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Okay, next up is Steve Bailey for Emergency Management Committee, 3-year term until 3/31/24. Do I have a motion for Steve on that committee?
So moved.
Second.
Second? Discussion? Hearing none. Tim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. And finally, Winnie Young for Conservation Commission, 3-year term until 3/31/24.
So moved.
Second.
Second, thank you. Discussion? Hearing none. Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Oops, Beth, did you say yes?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't hear it, sorry. Pam?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And Hal? Oh, wait. Matt, did you go first on that one?
Did Matt?
I
go
went
first?
first.
Did you vote on this one?
I voted yes.
Okay, thank you. And I voted yes also. Okay, I might have lost track of that. We might be out of sequence on the voting here. I'm sorry.
Paul's got it.
Okay.
And I thank you to everyone that wants to be on the committee. It's really much appreciated. We can't
Are we
run.
doing Fred Borman? He's already out. I'm sorry, I missed that.
He's not on the list. So Walter, yeah, what's the
Okay.
story with?
He's on the revised.
Yeah, Al's working from the old list.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So how about a motion for Fred Borman also?
Oh, I don't have that list. Okay.
Conservation Commission, 3/31/2023. So moved.
Second.
Second. Roll call vote. Beth?
Fred Gorman. Is that what you said? I'm right.
Borman, B-O-R-M-A-N.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nancy's husband. Pam?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And Hal is yes.
And again, I'm all done. I think it was August or so because we had a case in September and we had to make sure that that was all legal back then. And I had expired in March of 2020. So
Okay.
I am done.
Okay. Walter, anything else on that part of your list?
Nope, that's all good. Thank you.
Okay, great.
So the next item I have is the lagoon access management. So I provided you a copy of the letter from Lance Benson regarding the management and access to the lagoon for dumping. With the staff back in town hall Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4. I think part of the problem was during COVID and town hall being closed down, there was problems getting access to the facility and also paying the fee and so forth. So I think it might be a good time to consider going back to the old practice so that things can be managed as they were, which I understand was successful. And I, basically kind of get back on an even keel to address some of the concerns that he expressed and make sure that we're getting what we're supposed to be collecting as well.
How does the board feel about this? Beth, do you want to weigh in?
It worked for years, didn't it? I mean,
That's my recollection.
okay, yeah. So if everyone is in now, no, well, or we're changing the hours. When you come in, who's going to be at the window or the little bell that you press or something? So
basically right now, Carol's there from 9 to 1.
Yeah.
And then we do lock the door, but people frequently come and knock on the door and we just go answer it and we do the business and so forth. So if the board decides later to change the operational hours, that's fine. But, as I say, between myself and Paul and Cheryl, we're in the office 5 days a week from 8 to 5. So, haulers, if they're after 1 o'clock, can just, knock on the door and we can provide them the key and collect the payment and then be there when they get back to drop off the key and so forth. So,
okay. No, I think it's fine. So we can keep track. Definitely. Thank you.
Tim, did you want to speak?
What is the earliest somebody's inside that building? Like getting ready for business, 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock.
Okay, so just make sure Mr. Benson and MD Tasker and Daco know that they can't get the key till 8 unless an emergency or something. So just
We'll send out letters to all of them about what we're doing in terms of resuming the process.
you keep David Lane in the loop too.
Oh yeah.
He's-
Matt, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I was supportive of the move to loosen up that process last year because we were losing a lot of Friday revenue because there was nobody there on Fridays. But now I think now that we're getting back to normal, I'm totally in support of going back to the old system.
and it's revenue, but all that revenue goes back into maintaining the lagoon. So
Okay.
that's a key note.
Okay, and Pam, did you want to say anything on this or are you all set?
No, I think it's good to get it open.
Okay. Walter, do you need a motion or is this just going to be a policy change?
It'll just be a practice change, basically. I don't know if Chris has anything to add to the conversation, but it would just be a matter of going back to the old practice.
Okay, well, I don't think there's any disagreement, so move forward with it.
And we'll get some letters out and we'll make it effective, in a time period that gives everybody notice and so forth.
And I think it is good to get things back to a more normal approach.
Okay, we can do that. So the next item on my list is, the 4 Bow Street drainage matter. I think everyone was aware that there was an issue going on with the discharge of a sump pump into the road, which created an ice problem. So I issued a cease and desist, and obviously that brought a response from the property owners, which was great because I certainly learned a lot. And a copy of that information was in your packet. And Chris and I have talked a little bit about a couple of possible solutions, but obviously with cold weather going away, and of course the owner did say that they were redirecting it to a certain degree, but I think it's going to end up on the road eventually anyway, but because of the volume. So
Tim, do you want to weigh in on this?
So I've been by the property many times just from the Route 4 opening, but so I guess looking at all her maps and all the maps that I was sent or received, that there's a culvert like behind her house that goes across the road. Okay. But my concern is, why isn't they pumping the sump pump towards that culvert and have it try to go underneath the road? The sump pump is out front by the Route 4 side, 50 feet away from that culvert, running across the road. So maybe if they would redirect the sump pump towards the culvert and have it go underneath the road instead of over the top of the road. I guess that I'm looking at the picture on the map, and she's drawing all these pictures and concerns on the back side of her house. They're pumping water out the front of the house. So
I think the point she made, if I recall, was that once the water goes into that culvert that goes over the road, there's an issue further down that backs everything back up and floods their whole yard. So obviously that doesn't allow the water to go anywhere. And as I said, I think Chris could probably explain it a little better if he's there. And in terms of
Let's just start with the drawing, that she gave us, if we could. She's indicating that it's blocked up on the downstream side because the owner on that side has either allowed the drainage pipe to get crushed or did not install the correct size drainage line initially.
Well, that was the owner 30 years ago that lived there.
Yeah, I understand, but
Okay.
nonetheless, if the water can't go anywhere, I'm sort of wondering if the problem is on the other side of the road. Because I mean, she indicated that, in her notes, that there wasn't a problem until that drainage got completely closed on the other side in terms of, adding lengths to it and adding smaller lengths. So I'm wondering, if Chris, can you tell us if that's indeed a correct assessment?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the culvert that does cross Bow Street there does access to a private property where the culvert that was run was on private property, was run by the homeowner originally. So unfortunately, we're not held to, private property and keeping him to maintain that. I mean, it's basically on him. It's his culvert. If he's not worried about his yard flooding, then we have no grounds for any of that. So that's the unfortunate thing.
Well, I guess I'm going to ask a tough question. So is there a reason why we don't just open up the culvert right at the road and let the water do whatever it's going to do?
Sorry, I had a phone call come in. I lost you. What was that, Hal?
So on the downstream side, I mean, let me just say it this way, on my road, we used to have some 12-inch culverts that ran for an ungodly length. And we just said, well, we can't tell what's going on or where it's plugged and cracked or anything. So we purposely broke it apart a couple places.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it seems like the logical thing is if the downstream side is plugged, we need to open it up right at the culvert, right at the road there. And if the folks downstream need to adjust their drainage or whatever, it's really up to them to do it. Like you said, it's private property.
Yeah.
But we can't not know that the drainage under the road isn't working. And I'm a little bit uncomfortable that we don't know that.
So the culvert that runs under the road itself is within working order. It's from where the downhill side of it takes off to where the private culvert is where the private culvert is the issue. So the one, like I said, the one that's running across Bow Street is fine.
Can we open that up and bowl out the downhill side, a little bit of riprap, and
That's what I don't quite understand. If we opened it up right after that,
the only
keep it
issue
in a right of way.
We do have a right of way there. The only issue is the lowest side of it would actually put it right to his house versus to where the water actually has to go. And you can't redirect water into somebody's house.
I understand that, but we can work with them on that. But if it's blocking the water from going the proper way, I'm struggling a little bit with why we can't get that resolved between, I understand, but if they've got a problem with the way the water flows on their property and it's blocking other people, from draining properly, I think I'd have a problem with that they don't fix that.
Are we experiencing flooding on Lower Bow?
Yeah, Lower Bow Street. So the only issue is with speaking to the homeowner, on the other side. He has no issue with the way the water runs. He doesn't care that it flows towards his house. He takes care of it from there with his own sump pump, and that's basically where I've gotten with that. So that's the
So
other issue.
Can we ask the person from the uphill side on 4 Bow Street, Low Bow Street, what we call the road now, to aim her sump pump out the back of her house towards that culvert instead of on the front of the road towards Route 4?
I mean, we could definitely ask her to do that.
Because it's still pumping out across the road. You know, I tried 2 days ago, I went by there, so she has to redirect it towards the culvert.
Right.
Help
If
us out
that's
here.
not clearing water, it's just going to keep cycling the same water.
Yep. So my resolution originally was, with talking to Walter, was to put off of Route 4 with our easement, putting a catch basin with approximately 60 feet of culvert down Route 4 to where the river is, and dumping it out there, because that whole lower section there of Lower Bow Street between Route 4 and it's Mrs. Lord. I don't know the house number, but between there is a low spot, so that's why it holds water. With putting a catch basin in culvert, we would eliminate all the issue. So
you're going behind this house or down Route 4?
Down Route 4. So I already contacted the state, met with the state foreman for the 604 shed, got the proper channels to contact them to, putting the paperwork through. And on top of doing that, not only doing the catch basin, but talking to Eversource and Fairpoint about moving the telephone pole that's in the middle of the roadway as well.
So you're going to set a catch basin on her side of the road?
It'll be in the town's road.
Yeah, but on the uphill side,
which is it's actually the lowest spot on that area.
Yep.
Oh, it is. Okay. I did not realize that. I couldn't see that.
Basically, it kills 2 birds with 1 stone.
If that's the lowest spot, that sounds like the right way to go. I thought it was flowing the other way.
No, unfortunately, it flows towards Route 4.
Okay.
What's the timeline on that?
As far as permitting and
when could it be done? Yeah, everything.
What's the price tag on it? Because we have to cut up that whole guy's driveway, repave all that side of the sidewalk. That's right on Route 4. That's
it's definitely going to be an undertaking. It's not, definitely not something it's going to be overnight. But I mean, as far as filing paperwork and things like that, I got to get in contact with the engineer from the state and the easement rights for the roadway, and basically go from there as far as doing a culvert permit. And as far as that, so
it's
but
somebody's pumping water onto the town road. We need to rectify the problem. It's going to cost us big bucks for her sump pump.
Well, we have the structure already. We have a sump, a mid, and the top. So we have the structure. It's just the labor and culvert, and then the asphalt itself, plus obviously gravel, stone, things like that.
This has been going on since 1988.
Yep.
I'd be pretty irked if this is my yard since 1988.
And so if I'm reading this correctly, the problem is on the adjoining property on the other side of Bow Street that has a substandard drainage pipe that was put in by a previous owner. So this isn't part of code enforcement, seeing it's on private property, but it's, does the property owner have some culpability in repairing this? Because it doesn't look like a healthy situation on either side of the road.
Correct. But as far as
flooded basement for septic, for the stream, the brook, all of that sounds like it's if not environmental, a health issue.
Yeah, Pam, you're hitting on where I was struggling with it. I guess up until Chris was talking about the culvert on her side of the road, I guess I thought the other side of the road was the lower spot, and that if you opened it up, it would drain away the water on her side. Is that, I guess I'm not right on that.
Chris, the culvert that's 50 feet down the road, it flows from Mrs. Lord's property over to Allen's old property, correct?
So the one that the town owns is right after her driveway is just a short 20-foot section that goes across the road to a sump. And then from there at the sump, it took off with the private culvert to behind the house to dump into the stream.
So at the end of that culvert on Allen's side, I'm calling it, the monument guy's side.
Yep.
There's no way we can bowl that out and slope it off like another 10 feet and let it go?
No, because unfortunately the ground's approximately 3 feet higher than the road right there. So, and in turn, when we bowl it out, it would put all the water right into his secondary driveway, which flows behind the house, and then which is a low spot, which flows right into his house.
Well, have we looked at the asset of maybe asking him to put something across his backyard instead of coming all the way out to Route 4 and making a major
Project.
Exactly. You know, I'd rather have a backhoe and excavator behind that house for a couple days than sitting on Route 4.
Yep.
For
No,
a
when
week.
I spoke to him earlier, he was pretty reluctant to doing anything, to be honest. And basically he didn't care. So, I mean, it's something we can approach again and possibly see about doing. I mean, if you go around the house, it's approximately, I think, 120 feet versus going down the front of Route 4, you know, approximately 50 or 60 feet.
Okay, so how does the board want to handle this? Do we want to get a couple more ideas, or Walter, what do you suggest?
Yeah, I think we should, you know, like Chris and I work on it. We have to get some consulting. We can get some consulting and see what might be the best options. I really just wanted to let the board know that the landowner responded, and, you know,
Okay.
isn't ignoring the town's concern and so forth. So.
Yeah, I guess I'm concerned the most with the idea that she indicates, and again, it's subject to confirmation, but she indicates that it was okay up until there was changes on the other side of the road, which that is the part that concerns me.
So I mean, everything was running efficiently, but you're talking a steel culvert that's 30 years old now. It's completely in disrepair now. So it's completely rotted out and things like that. That's why it doesn't work anymore.
Wait,
so there was no changes.
Hold on a second. Stick with that, Chris. Where is that failed culvert?
Right, is that
On
the
private
town
property.
It's on the private property.
On the Allen side.
Yep.
I guess this goes back to the point I was making earlier. They got to fix it.
Private property. How can you tell somebody if they want water in their basement, they want water in their basement? How can we tell somebody?
It's
You're
going
gonna
into the
spend-
brook.
Well,
Goes into that brook
No.
that makes it public.
yeah. Well, I guess what I would say is, and it goes back to the comment I made earlier, and I admit I don't know that there's a good answer on this, but you know, we broke apart our culverts so we could see where there was problems. And if you basically broke open the culvert on the Allen side just after it crosses the road, then it's up to that landowner to deal with the water going forward. I mean, am I missing something there?
It's not our culvert that's plugged, it's his.
Right.
We can't go in and break open his culvert. I mean, you broke your own. So we
When I
can't
say break open, I mean
open up.
open up, and if it results in the water flowing up and out over top because it's plugged further down, you know, that's their problem. I mean, we're going to have to tell them this, and we're going to have to coordinate it with maybe them doing some repairs. But, you know, I guess I'm thinking, you know, general policy, I'd like to see every culvert that goes under a road be open on both sides so we can see whether our responsibility going underneath the road is clean and clear. And it's not the case here, and that's a little disturbing to me.
Well, it is clear. It goes, as Chris said, it goes into a structure on the other side of the road, and then they tap their pipe into the structure. So we can see the end of our pipe.
No, there's no structure on that side. It's the culvert, right, Chris?
Yeah, it's just a sump.
So
There is a sump there. Okay, I didn't realize
Well, no,
that.
it's not a concrete sump. It's just a dug sump.
Okay.
you can see the end of our pipe.
Oh, yeah. No, you can, yeah, our pipes are fine. It's not the issue of going under our road. It's the private pipe that the landowner owns that's the issue.
So can
Well,
we
it's not-
ask if, next couple days, whatever, can we ask Mrs. Lord, maybe she can redirect her sump pump through that culvert? Because it's still pumping on the road. I saw the other day. Why
mean,
is
I
it still,
I
But
can
if it-
ask. I have no issue doing that.
But if it goes under the into the culvert and underneath the road, then where does it flow from there?
it just backs up onto that guy's lawn?
It backs up into the sump and then runs down his, I guess you'd call it the lawn, but it's a side of a driveway and into his house.
Well, that seems like a perfectly reasonable outcome as far as I'm concerned. If his culvert is the issue and he's refusing to fix it, then,
Yeah.
I mean, if Mrs. Lord simply moves where she's pumping her water, so it's not spilling into the highway, and
Well,
instead is just backing up that culvert, if it's going into the neighbor's yard, again, at that point, if it's his property that's causing the problem in the first place, I don't personally have an issue with that.
Yeah, and it seemed like, based on her dialogue, that was where the source of the problem was, 15, 20 years ago. So,
We'll look into it.
okay.
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah,
gonna solve it tonight, so
no, we aren't, although we'd like to.
moving along.
But can you let her know that we are looking into it? Because, I
Yeah.
mean, she has documentation going back years, and it's like
Yeah.
we're always dropping the ball.
Yeah, no, so I did, when I had a meeting down there with Dave, the foreman for the 604 shed, she was pretty quick to come out, her and her husband, and they were very pleasant, and I mean, they're nice people. And I told her this is the, I was hoping for a resolution. I mean, physically, we'd have to take a site walk to show everything.
Okay, so you guys are gonna come back with something more concrete.
Even our culvert that goes across the road, if you want to go by grade, where our culvert is actually where her pump is coming out is 2 feet lower than where our culvert is. So that's why the sump at Route 4 has always been a bowl there. So that's why it's always held water. So I mean,
Not a good situation.
we definitely have to have a site walk
Okay,
to be explained to everything.
so like Walter said, we aren't gonna resolve it here tonight.
No, definitely not.
Okay,
So we will address it and continue to
Thank
okay,
you.
try to come up with solutions, resolutions.
got it. Thank you.
Okay, and the only other thing I have is just a, reminder, upcoming meetings, staying with our current schedule. April 13th and 27th for board meetings, and of course, our deliberative session is still off in May. And voting day on June 8th.
Okay,
All
very
I-
good. Okay. I see Bob Young's online, and I apologize for not asking this question sooner.
Mr. Chairman, are we all done with Chris and Cheryl for the night?
Yeah, this is, I think we are, and I'm leading up to another sort of efficiency move too. Yeah, so Chris, I think, and Cheryl were done.
Yeah, I'm just on here as public tonight. Well, as public works for me, but I'm not putting in for hours or anything, so I'll be on anyways.
Okay. Maybe Cheryl is also. What I'm going to ask is if the board would, see you later, Cheryl. Thanks again.
She's like, I'm leaving.
Let us know when Dudley's ice cream stand opens up there.
Where's Dudley's?
Isn't Loudon, isn't it?
Oh, I'm in Pembroke.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, all right,
I
never
thought-
mind then.
I thought there was some ice cream shop I need to check out.
She's like, Dudley's.
What?
And then,
That reminds me, we didn't schedule ice cream for lunch day yet, did we? Okay, we got to get that scheduled. Okay, so I'm going to ask if the board would be willing to move the review for modifications to the current policy on COVID-19, related to COVID-19, so that and Bob, I apologize, I didn't think of this sooner, but if the board's willing, I'd like to move the discussion that we'd like your input on up. Does anybody object to doing that? Okay, so Walter, do you want to go over what items we need to review?
Well, I wasn't involved when the policies were set, but certainly there was policies and guidelines for use of the community building and the town hall and so forth. And I think Bob's been looking at those and preparing to make a recommendation one way or another, I believe.
Okay,
Same with
okay,
our operation and so forth.
so there was, if I recollect, there's three places then, if that's what we're talking about here. One is town hall, the great room for our meetings. Second is the community center, and then the third would be at the transfer station.
Right.
Okay, so those three are up for consideration. Bob, do you want to weigh in on each one of those individually, please?
Actually, yeah, I think Walter and I have had a little discussion back and forth because there's a couple of other issues as the state is beginning to open up with the vaccines coming out. But for the most part, nothing really has changed. I mean, the state is still maintaining mask policy. We're still asking for 6-foot distances. We're still asking to make sure that there's good ventilation. So I would just be of the opinion that we maintain where we are at least for another month. Because at this point, the only people who have been vaccinated have been those 65 and older or first responders. The 50+ people started yesterday in terms of getting there, and we're only at 12%. And the thing that concerns me the most is we're bouncing back and forth. We were at 20 last week. We're now back down to about 3 to 4, but Nottingham just kicked up to 20 again.
Yeah.
And if you start looking at the state sites, I mean, if you watch my green map every night, my green chart, that's going back up again.
Yeah, it is turning. Yeah.
And so that concerns me. And I think it would be sort of in the best interest of the town if they can function the way they are to revisit this. And I'd be willing to come back at our next meeting and look at it. But I think it's still too early to open up.
I agree.
Okay, so Bob, basically what you're saying is keep bringing it up like once a month, you know, like and if something changes, then we can open it up for discussion at that point. Is that what you're saying?
That would be yes. I mean, Walter and I like communicate on a not regular basis, but at least we've been communicating on this one.
Okay.
And I mean, there's another issue too, in terms of as we start seeing vaccinations, what is going to be the town policy in terms of employees? If an employee is not vaccinated, we're going to have to treat them differently than those who are vaccinated. So there are lots of little issues that are coming to the forefront. And I think if Walter and I stay in communication, and I'll come back every week now, every couple of weeks, anytime you want, just have Walter let me know that this is what you want to discuss.
Well, Walter, why don't we just target it for the second meeting of the month? Faithfully do that until, you know, we come to a change. If people are comfortable with that, that's the way we'll handle it. Anybody have any alternate suggestions?
No, once again, we appreciate your work you do, Mr. Young.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bob.
You guys.
I always look forward to your email.
You may be the only one. Anyway, it's going to be a little late tonight because the data just came out. So I'll go off and send that off to you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, let's get going.
Hey,
All right, we're doing it.
Before
Take
you
care
sign
now.
off, Beth has a question, I believe.
Yeah, Beth.
Well, I know the Co-Brown now has 5 active cases of Co-Brown. So just wondering, the COVID guidelines, I know for the town hall, that's not going to affect though our decision earlier about having the key available until 4 o'clock, right?
No, we'll still be available. Like I said, now if someone comes to the door and knocks, we go and we answer it. You know, if we can help them, fine. If we can't, you know, we don't. But you know, certainly if somebody's coming for the key or you know, dropping off a check or whatever, we'll be able to do that just as a matter of continuing practice.
Addressing.
Do we have to have the door locked then, or can't we just have the door open, unlocked, and they can just ring a bell or something?
We're trying to keep the door locked when someone's not sitting there because we're having trouble with the door sticking and not closing, and we found people wandering in the building, you know, in the great hall or using the bathrooms, and our bathrooms aren't being cleaned every day. So there's, concern about the public using the bathrooms. That's why we put up a sign that says no public beyond this point, unless they're obviously accompanied by an employee for, a conference or something like that.
And
So
as
with
far
locking,
as,
oh, go ahead, Mr.
I was
Young.
going to say, as far as the town hall is concerned, both upstairs and downstairs seem to be working quite fine.
With the
The
current
max-
policies.
In terms of the policy,
Yeah,
people are able to get in, they're able to do business with the town. It's not like anybody is locked out. It's just that we've protected the staff and as best we can. So I applaud, what Walter has continued to do and what is happening downstairs with Marissa.
anybody else want to give some input?
So locking the door, do you have to disconnect the handicap push button? Is it all part of it? Or you lock the door, can I still push the button, open the door?
No, there's a switch. When we
Okay,
lock the door-
you can manually shut that off okay.
Okay, good. Okay, Bob, well, again, thank you for all you're doing and we appreciate the input. Looking forward to seeing you in, I guess, about 4 weeks.
All right.
Great.
Hopefully we'll see more of you guys vaccinated and we can do a little more chit chatting.
Yeah, I got my second one Saturday, so.
All
I just want
right.
to throw out there, I didn't get any syrup last year, so I'll be by in the next couple of weeks.
See the stat bucket hanging there, but it wasn't hanging there after the windstorm.
Well, for what it's worth, I made my first boil and we got a couple of gallons. So Matt, there's one with your name on it.
I love it.
Take care.
We should have asked that before we reappointed him.
Just show up with your hands out. We'll see you guys.
I'm showing up with pancakes. Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thanks again, Bob. Okay, so Walter or board members, just please speak up on items like that to get the rearrangement of the order of items so that we work efficiently. I'll try to remember, but it helps to get some support on that. So at this point, I think we're ready to go back to the board rules, position description, code of ethics. There was 3 documents. We've gone through multiple edits on this. I believe since the last one, we have not had any additional edits. Walter, can you confirm that?
We did clean up the position description and the rules after the conversation we had about, the committees, listing all the committees and so forth. So I took out all but the 2 ex officio positions and just simply, put a statement in there that the board would determine, which committees would have representatives and so on and so forth, rather than trying to list them and miss one and that type of thing. So I think
On
that
organization day, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I lost track of time there. That was not in place at the last meeting. That was a change since the last meeting.
Yeah, that was a discussion at the last meeting.
Okay, I guess each time I read it, I think it's another meeting. Okay,
That would be section 8 under the bylaws.
okay,
And obviously I crossed the position description changes with the bylaws and vice versa.
yeah. I guess when you sent those out, I guess I looked at them and I guess I thought that was part of what was happening at the meeting, but okay. So it sounds to me like we need to open up the discussion to see if there's anything else that folks would like to edit or change on that at this point. Anybody want to raise any points or changes at this point?
I captured everything we've discussed to this point.
Yeah, and I guess that's maybe why I was thinking that we had already been through this, but yeah, I'm thinking it looks pretty good. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns?
Well, looks good.
Okay, if people are comfortable with it, Walter, do we need to adopt these by motion individually or as a group?
Individually.
Okay. So I guess I'm gonna ask for a motion to approve the board rules as published or as given in the handouts for this week's meeting.
Point of order, just on a bylaw vote, is it something like the earlier one that needs 2 readings?
I have to defer to Walter.
Most of the bylaw votes I've been on have been a 2 reading situation. Usually, like, you could do like a reading at the start of the meeting, second reading towards the end of the meeting, and a vote, or you could do 2 readings, one at 2 different meetings. So that was just, I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
because it is a bylaw.
Walter, what do you think?
Well, it's the board's bylaws, so I think, yeah, it's not a public policy. It's not gonna impact the policy. It's specific to the board. So I think we're fine. I think it's just a matter of, because the authority is within the bylaws that allows the select board to amend those. So I think we're fine. Same way with the job description. Again, it's specific to the select board. It's not a public policy. It's a matter of a function and a guideline and rules for the select board. So I think we've had this on the agenda 4 times now. So
That's what I was gonna say. In the bylaws, it says we can't discuss amendments and vote the same night, but it's been like months that we've been talking about this. I think we're pretty safe.
Yeah, it does say shall not be voted upon until the next regular scheduled meeting.
Yeah.
So
as long as we're not making any additional changes
We
tonight.
didn't make any additional changes. That's where I got confused.
not the last time. So if we're not making any changes, then I guess my integrity would say, yes, you can vote tonight.
Okay. Okay, well then, would you like the honor of making that motion?
Sure, I will make a motion to accept the bylaws as amended. Would that be your proper wording?
Or I'd say as presented in the meeting pack.
Bylaws as amended.
Not as amended, as presented.
As presented.
Yeah.
Let's see. Would we say the amended bylaws as presented?
Sure, that's okay.
And would you want a separate vote for the summary of duties, or?
But we need a separate one for position description and then another one for code of ethics.
Right, so I make a motion to accept the amended bylaws as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Pam, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Tim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. Okay, how about a motion to approve the position description as presented?
I'll
Oh,
move
yeah.
to accept the job description as presented.
Okay, and we got a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Tim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. And finally, do I have a motion to approve the code of ethics as presented?
So moved.
We got to get the cat off the code of ethics.
Is a second, anybody?
That's a
Second.
violation right there.
And any discussion? Hearing none. Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. Okay, that's good. It feels good to get those done. Okay, next up is the just a review once again of Walter's 5-year fund balance management plan. We broached this subject last meeting, and we started to have some discussions on it. And I thought it'd be good just to bring it back up again and let, now that people have had a chance to look at it, maybe digest some of the information and think about how we want to handle this. So it's back on the agenda, and I'll just open it up for general discussion. Does anybody want to raise any points on this or make any comments on it? Okay, I guess I was wrong on this. So I'll make one comment, and that's this. I think the timing is actually, in general, the sequence is kind of fortuitous in the sense that if the board wants to recommend some uses for these funds, for example, this year we're considering making the recommendation to use some of the funds to do the road paving so that we don't have to add that to the tax bill. Once the town folks vote, then we can see whether or not they'd agreed with that. If they didn't, then we still have those funds theoretically available, and we could include that in a discussion for just lowering the tax rate. So I think it's actually fortuitous the way the timing works, because we can make recommendations to the town as to how we as a board think the funds should best be spent and how quickly. They get a chance to yay or nay it, and then we still have a chance, as Matt wondered, whether we could just buy down the tax rate. So I think we're actually in a good position. So I think at this point, all I'd ask is please think about if we're going to be ready and willing to make a motion to amend how we fund the road. Oh, no, wait, Walter, help me out. The road is already in this way. It's the land for the safety complex. Is that correct?
Right.
That you're recommending we make that change on. And what's the other one you recommended the change on?
That's the only one.
Okay.
The other ones are already set up.
The other ones are already there. So that's the big one. So think about that in terms of, it would have to be a motion that somebody makes at the deliberative session to change the way it's funded. Beth.
But it wasn't just a safety complex. Walter had other things because Tim wasn't here last time.
Yeah, well, it was, what go over them all, Walter. Yeah.
Sure. So it was the 150,000 for the roads.
That's already in place though, the way it's written, correct?
That's correct. Yep. There was the 23,500 for the software, the money that came back from.
Yes, and we already put that money back in, so that's the reason we worded it that way in the first place. So that one's already in place also. Right.
Then there's the money from the, well, what we thought was going to be coming into the fund balance from the bicentennial, $8,400, but that's also stated as coming from the fund balance, so that can just stay as it is.
Stay as is.
And then there's whether, there's a decision to go forward and change the 295,000 into the, out of the taxation into the coming out of fund balance, which I believe totals roughly $477,000.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then the overall picture is you're talking about approximately 475,000 this year, or in this appropriation, and then you gradually adjust that to like 350, 350, 350, and then gradually tail it off.
Right.
So we get back into where the balance is more appropriate to what we've approved in the past.
Yes.
Okay. So then really, I guess the only change that we need to think about and be willing to recommend, if that's the way we want to go, is whether to fund the purchase, to fund the land for the safety complex through the fund balance. So please think about that, and then we'll keep it on our radar up through to the deliberative session. Anything else anybody wants to raise on this?
When we're presenting at deliberative, is your plan to talk through this plan in some degree of specifics?
Yeah, I think we have to, Matt, and I also think that we need to do a little bit more upfront arithmetic for folks in terms of all the different items that we have on our list. How does that compare to all the different items? Because every year people sit there tallying these up and it always gets confusing. And I think if we have the hard numbers on a list in place for everybody so they can see it clearly, I mean, there's no reason to hide the overall numbers. People are going to add them up for the total, regardless of whether we do or not. We might as well just do it so it's there and ready for them. And then that fits into the overall, how are we going to make adjustments to smooth out the tax rate for folks? The other thing I'll just mention that we will have to think about when it comes time to do that is also, we'll need some input from the school, because obviously they have a potential for an impact on the tax rate also. And that's both, from how much the budget is, but also from how much they think they might be returning to us if things go well for them. So I think the more we can put that into a chart and show people how we're trying to smooth out the tax rate, I think the better off everybody's going to be in terms of making a good decision. And we'll just have to see how people feel. So just please keep it on your, in the back of your mind, and then I think we'll have a little bit more discussion on that as we get closer to deliberative session. Okay, now
I just wanted to say that, for Tim's benefit, that it's a very fluid document, Tim, very fluid process. We'll have to look at it every year and make adjustments and, recognize the new balance. These are all based on projections and so forth and the kind of a hypothesis versus, fact. So it's not cast in stone by any means.
Yeah, it's a living document. Tim.
Now, we keep saying roads. Is that culvert work, tree work, ditching? It's all combined into that? Okay, I just want to keep those words in the loop. I just don't want pavement. I want ditching, trees.
I think you got it right.
Okay.
And that's part of what we got to do with the plan. We got to get the ditching and the trees need to be done this year, the culverts, and the plan needs to include all of that stuff. Otherwise, we're just fooling ourselves.
Like I said, I've been here all my life and coming up and down Tasker Hill every year this year since we cut those trees is what a difference of that whole stretch of road right through there. So
yeah, we can do some good stuff if we plan it out. We can't do everything at once, and that's part of why Walter is helping us with this plan. We want to plan things out so we do them well and in the right sequence. And I guess that begs the question, Walter. Any word on the road plan?
Well, as I mentioned, that's going to be a summer project. And they won't have the staff to do the field work until the summer. So
okay. So be patient.
Have it by September, hopefully.
Okay. Good. Anything else on that? Okay. Moving on to proposals for mowing. Walter.
Yeah. So Chris and I worked on preparing the RFP. As we agreed, we were going to incorporate all the mowing, including the cemeteries, into the request for proposal. We used the same format that was used last year, which I understand was prepared professionally. And so it's really just running it by you to see if anything sticks out that needs to be adjusted and so forth. But it's ready to go, and I spoke with Matt about scheduling and that type of thing, and spoke with Steve Bailey about the cemeteries and so forth, and we blended their contract items into this RFP as well. So unless anybody has any questions or any problems, this is what we like to go with and get it out on the street.
It looked to me like Tim had his hand up first and then Beth.
Well, I was just gonna say, you've talked to the trustees of the cemeteries, so they're going along. Usually they hire do their own thing. So we're all on the same page.
Talked to Steve and talked to Chris, obviously. And they've handled that.
So
They're aware of it.
is it Chris is gonna pick, or do we ship this off to the facilities committee and have them recommend somebody to Chris? How does that work?
Well, from my experience, it would be evaluated by myself and Chris and brought before the board for approval based on a recommendation.
Beth, you wanted to raise a question?
I was just gonna ask the same thing about the facility committee, like, so we made a committee, we're meeting, shouldn't this be going through the facility committee as well?
I wasn't aware that
Your
the
facilities,
facility
so-
committee was in charge of making contract recommendations. That's unique in my experience.
Right, but I guess because it's a facility issue, I was just wondering, wouldn't that go in front of the facility committee? Like, am I on a committee that I'm just gonna meet and not do anything?
They recommend like what road plans and stuff, but they don't obviously sign the contract. But I know in the past, when I was an alternate on the roads committee, we recommended certain, so obviously, like you said, we knew when the committee's not signing contracts, but the whole purpose of the committee was thought to get input and to look at stuff to bring to the Board of Selectmen.
Whatever your process is, again, it's not my experience, but it just slows down the process, obviously.
Well, are you, Beth and Tim, are you thinking that the committee needs to review the bid, or excuse me, the proposals that we're going to send out, the request for proposals, or do you think they need to review the bids, or both?
I mean, I guess I just have some questions. I know the facility committee, they came up with ideas of things, and we asked to have like a bid for the painting for the I think the library, a bid for, it was, oh no, the community center,
Community center wall.
the community center wall and that kind of stuff. So I assume that, how I guess what's the purpose of the committee? If
We have that list. We've been given that list by the chairman of the committee, and we're preparing an RFP for that list as well, but it wouldn't be incorporated in the mowing.
No, I'm just asking in general.
Oh, okay, I missed the point, okay.
Now, Betsy
Sorry.
provided us the list. Chris and I have reviewed it, and that's one of the next RFPs we're going to be preparing. We wanted to get this one on the street because we want to start, be prepared to start the mowing of the fields and so forth by the middle of April.
Okay, I apologize, Beth. I didn't realize that's the question you were asking. You're concerned about what are the other items on the list and when are they going to get addressed?
Well, I'm assuming that the grounds is part of the facility. That's why I did, Chris didn't bring that to the committee. So, just curious.
Well, how do you want to handle it? What do we think should be the right process?
I'm not sure. I mean, the committee talked about like redoing, they talked about the steps at the community center, the steps out in front of the town hall, the painting. I mean, I guess we never thought about is the mowing part of the facilities. I'm just asking the question.
Okay, so hold on a second. I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
Well, no, I guess because you said before, Hal, that there was money for beautifying the town hall, and you were like, oh, Beth, that's a facility thing. So remember, it was like doing the grounds and stuff. So I'm thinking if you said, oh, Beth, that's money for making the grounds at town hall nice, that's grass. That's putting, geraniums, like that kind of stuff, adding a bush.
Okay.
I was just curious, just wanted to know. So when I go to my next meeting and I'm asked questions, I have an answer.
Okay, so that's separate from the mowing contract, correct? Or am I missing something here?
Well, I guess because I thought mowing was part of a facility. It was part of the grounds. I took facility as being building and.
Right. Okay, so it is part of the grounds. Are you saying that you want the facilities committee to review this proposal?
Yes.
Okay, and can you get it done relatively soon? Yeah, because if you can, I don't see any reason not to get the input. mean, Walter, do you think it'll slow us down too much?
Again, my opinion, my professional opinion, this is an administrative function. I don't know if the committee reviewed the RFP last year because it hasn't changed any other than the dates. So, from my experience, administration manages the administrative portion of the process. If there's other things that the committee wants to add to the improvements of the facility, we can certainly do that, under a separate agreement, but this is just for cutting the grass.
Okay, so
The committee did not meet. The committee just started late summer. Chris, remember we met a couple times in the front parking lot of the town hall? So I'm just asking, whether you guys just do it, whatever, that's fine. I guess I'd like a list of what actually the facility committee does. What's the purpose?
okay, we can go back to the charter on that, but I'm going to let Matt, then Pam add their points.
So I think there's a difference between facility improvements and capital projects and routine maintenance, right? So if we needed to call a bug guy because there was termites in the old shoe factory, like, I don't think that needs to wait to go to a facilities committee meeting to be determined, okay, let's call the exterminator. So I look at something like mowing as routine maintenance. From my perspective, focused on the rec side of things, I'm already pushing Walter to bump up that start date to mid-April instead of waiting for May, just because we're running some spring programs and I want to make sure we've got the contract in place. I think that additional layer of oversight at the committee level is unnecessary for something like mowing. I think
What is our budget for that this year? We usually stick like a price, right? Is there a line on that yet?
Yeah, well, hold on a second. Let's get back to that after. Matt, are you finished?
Sure.
Okay, then Pam.
Yeah, in this case, first point, minor one, Walter, on the last page, the cemetery list, you got a typo up on top, second line. All other town properties, so you want to fix that if it's contractual obligation. Little minor point. The other thing is I see this as a contractual agreement, and Walter is our agent to legally make these contractual obligations and signatures. So this is not a committee thing. This is the committee thing would be to recommend what mowing, and we already have that in place, which cemeteries, the whole bit. I would say in the future, like facilities committee would be looking to make recommendations on what other things would be done. And then if it comes to a contract, it goes to Walter. He's the person that does all this because he's licensed bonded, and that's who our representative is. We granted him that authority. So I don't think this is a committee issue. This is a contractual issue.
Matt, is that along the lines of what you were saying also? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yep.
Okay. Beth, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions though. So these places here listed on page 3, are these all the properties? Because like, I know that my neighbor goes and mows because it's not listed anywhere. He goes down every Saturday and mows part of the town property because it's not on a list.
Where's this?
Across the street from the community center, the
post
little
office?
post office thing. Yeah. Like, how come that's not on the list? Are we just going to assume that people are going to do it? They're going to drive down? I mean, so
I think the kid lives
if
across the
they're
street.
if they're mowing to the community hall, why don't they mow across School Street and do right there too? That's just one place that I know because my neighbors told me that he always goes down and does it.
What is there to mow at the transfer station and the police station?
The police station has that little bit of grass in the very, very front. You know,
Transfer
right where
station
the,
has the area in the front there, right by Route 4.
yeah, because there's a white, like, little area, because I know we planted flowers there a couple years ago, the garden club.
So I would say Walter could amend a couple things to add in that little post office, if that is indeed our responsibility.
Unless, yeah, I mean,
That
unless.
is town property for sure.
Is that town or is that historical
Is
society?
that documented town property?
But the Bryant Library is Historical Society, and that's on the list. That's why I was asking.
Well, that's town property, but is that post office technically town property across from your house, Chris?
I believe it's under the Historical Society
So,
as one of theirs.
That's what I was told.
Do we want to
Are
add
there
that
any
to the
other
list?
little places like that, I mean, I just know of that because my neighbor does it. Are there any other little places like that that are just not being done, Chris? Do you have any idea?
No, that's the only one that it's kind of a gray area. I know Hodgson has asked me before, but he said he usually mows on Friday or Saturdays, and usually Dave's the first one to jump on it. So like he said, he just passes right by. So I can clarify that tomorrow with Walter and we can go over that.
Yeah, this is the list from last year, so that's why it's the list for this year.
Yeah.
Tim?
lost my train of thought here. The cemetery, is that the one, what's the one on Pig Street, Old Canterbury Road? Is that, what is
Right
that
there.
called?
Old
That's the only one I had.
Canterbury
Is that,
Cemetery.
Canterbury Cemetery.
Fairview?
Yes.
Where's
But-
Fairview? Fairview's on,
No.
Fairview is old Canterbury Road, and Yield Canterbury Road is yeah.
Which one's
You know
which?
that one.
Canterbury Cemetery is
Well, I
up behind the
can-
farm.
Right,
Fairview is technically what we call Pig Street.
No, Fairview is the big one
yeah.
up behind the farm.
Okay, so Canterbury Cemetery is the little one that gets looked all the time that cost me $50 for 2 girls ice cream last year to have them. They come down more every year for me.
Those are big sums.
Awesome. Just want to make sure that one, because there's nobody, the last person that died in there was like 10 million years ago, so there's no perpetual care money for that. So the guy mows it, or supposed to mow it, like every 7 times he comes into towns, but that needs to be kept up too.
It's like the cemetery on Church Street next to Hannaford. No one takes care of that one.
Do we need to add that to the list?
You know where Church Street is?
Yeah,
And he has Hannaford and the little road that goes to Church Street. There's a cemetery, right? Can you see that? There's a cemetery right there.
One
well,
thing,
Walter's going off the old list. Do we want to amend the list or not?
Is there much grass to
family
mow
one?
there?
Up one at a time, Tim?
Is there much, how much is that? I know I've seen it in years past, but there's a lot of mowing there. Beth, how big is that cemetery?
No one, it hasn't been taken care of in years.
But if it's on private property, if it's a family cemetery, that wouldn't be town responsibility.
No, it was a church, and I think when they put the road in or something, the town took it over.
Digging.
This is the list that was provided by the cemetery trustees contract.
Yeah, we'll probably have to go with that.
And the old post office is Historical Society.
Do we want to add that one?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like that's the only addition. Walter, what do you need from us?
Nothing.
Okay, so you're going to send that out then?
We will.
Okay, terrific.
Get around.
Terrific. Oh, oh, baby. Bids for retired town vehicles. I think this is the highlight of the meeting, isn't it?
I want to throw one in for 626.
Ah!
All right, I go 630.
Oh, Walter, are you paid? Do you have auctioneering skills?
Yes. Here, 2.5 and a half and a half, 2.5.
Okay, Walter, go over the bids, please.
So the bid we received, the only bid we received on the 2013 police cruiser was for $258 from DeBla. And I think Chris checked and said we could junk it for more. So my recommendation is to reject that bid.
Do you need a vote on that or just a nod of heads?
Yeah, just we'll go through them and then you can just agree by
Okay.
consensus. On the 2006 Ford Explorer, $1,017 was one bid. We also got a bartering bid from Richard Bilodeau to install a light bar on the new command car vehicle, which is valued at about $8,400. So my recommendation would be to take that deal versus the 1,000 in cash, because it's going to cost us, probably $3,000 or $4,000 to eventually put a light bar on that.
Explain that again. This is the old fire chief's car, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Somebody, okay, right, I'm
Somebody
sorry.
bid $1,017.
Yeah,
And then someone bid a bartering offer that will provide a new light bar for the new vehicle installed, who's evidently qualified and capable and has done it before.
okay, that's my next point. Some references here, yeah.
Yeah, he's done it. I think Chris knows him. He estimates the retail value of $8,400 for that light bar and installation. So that obviously value-wise, even though it's not cash, provides a value versus $1,000 basically.
So
I have to say, I'm still missing this. But Beth, go ahead.
Didn't we already like include the lights and the detail?
the graphics and all that, you already put that in line.
It was included in the pricing, but it didn't include this type of light bar. It was something much less, I guess, from what the chief was saying.
I thought they were taking the light bar and putting it on putting it on the truck. Like how the police, they take the light bars and they put them on the vehicles.
Yeah, I don't think this one fits on the new vehicle, the old one.
Okay.
And then
So this guy's gonna get the light, put it on, in trade, we're gonna give him a car.
Right.
So he's buying the light bar, or are we buying the light bar for him to put on?
No, he's providing everything. The bar, the installation, the wiring, etc.
What is the Mark's throw on this? Chief, fire.
He agreed it was a better deal than getting $1,000 for the car. Certainly the car is worth more than that.
And this Bilodeau gentleman's a reputable installer?
Chris?
Yeah, Ricky actually does all of our maintenance on our radios now. As far as program for pagers, portables, all the install of basically every light on that blinks red or blue on our fire trucks.
Where's he out of?
He lives in Pembroke, I believe. He's a member of our fire department. He's a part-time call, and plus he's a deputy warden for the state, or special deputy actually. So he's been around a long time, and he is extremely good at what he does.
Okay.
I guess I'd like to see a bid from, like, what does a light bar really cost? I mean, if Bilodeau does it or Lights R Us, whatever, like, what's it?
It says it's an $8,400 install.
Yeah, it says it, but like, where's the paper that says it?
I have all the specifications in the bids. I didn't send you all the bids. I'd be glad to do that if you think that's necessary.
So do you have a bid from just that one or from others as well?
They're all in writing. All the ones that I've listed, we have in writing.
What you're
No,
saying?
I mean the light. Do you have a bids for the light? What it would actually cost from like several companies? What do we usually have? Three different companies?
No, I don't have that. This again was kind of a unique proposal.
I guess I'd like to see what it really costs. I mean, I appreciate he valuing that at that price, but I'd like to see two others. I mean, if we're going to take it as a trade.
What did the chief put in for the light the first time he put the whole package together? Do we know? I forget. I don't have that. It just to me, yeah, it looks like a better deal, but this guy's going to go buy a light bar and install it do like $8,000 worth of work for a car? I mean, for $1,000 car? I'm maybe just missing something. I'm just
Not
confused here.
$1,000 car. It's
Yeah,
worth more than $1,000. That's why
Yeah.
we don't want to take the $1,000 deal. It's a bad deal. So the light bar is worth more than the
Yeah, but
car-
have you been up close to that car? That car can't be much more than
The car's a death trap. Remember I was told it was a death trap?
the transmission's going, the tires are going, the battery's going. That's why I had to buy a new pickup truck. I'm just confused here.
okay, so hold on. I want to make sure I understand what, we got two bids on the fire command vehicle. We got one bid for $1,037, and we got a second bid.
For body work.
No, wait,
For bar-
I want to say this myself. We got a second bid. This person's going to give us $8,411, and they're going to put the light bar on.
No, he ain't gonna give us
Yeah,
any
but-
money. He's just gonna buy the light bar, install it, and we're gonna give him a car for his labor cost.
And the light,
Is that correct?
and the light bar too.
Yeah.
He's
So I'm
buying,
gonna show up.
I would like to see what the light bar costs and what it would cost to have it put on by another person too, not just, I mean, if it's a great deal, yeah, that's great. But I can't assume that that is a good deal because the car had so many issues. I thought it wouldn't even be worth $1,000, to be honest with you.
So hold on a second. In the
Fine, let's
second,
move
I don't understand the second offer.
the second offer is to provide and install a light bar on the new command truck. Okay, period. And the value, according to this professional who's willing to do it, to buy the light and install it is $8,400 in his opinion.
Okay. So the one bid is to give us $1,017, and the other option is to give us an installed light bar.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
That's
So
what,
now, my next question is, what did the chief budget for the light bar originally?
I don't have that information with me.
Yeah, my recollection is it was several $1,000s.
I don't have it with me.
Yeah, and I guess on just for the rest of the board, my position is a light bar plus the installation is definitely worth more than $1,017. And those are our only two choices at this point.
I don't, you haven't told me if the light bar is new, is it refurbished? I just would like to see what a light bar would cost and what it would cost to install it. Because
We got a brand new.
I can't make a decision. I don't know what is it new? Is it refurbished? Is it something that, he has had in the garage? I don't know.
Oh, you're asking what are the parameters of the light bar?
I want to see him take the plastic shiny new bubble wrap off it before he puts it on.
Okay, so Walter, do you have that information? Is it a new light bar or is it a used one?
Yes, I didn't realize I was going to have to provide all that information. I thought the recommendation would be sufficient, but yes, I have all the details. I have the specs. I have his letter in writing. I have all the offers in writing. I didn't want to clutter up the package any more than there was, but my bad. Next time.
Okay, so that one we're not going to act on.
Fine.
Yeah.
Good. And then the other one we have is for the two-wheel drive pickup for $620.
Wait a second, the dump truck?
That's really wasn't offered for sale, and the offer is not worth considering.
So we never put that officially on the bid. He just threw a number at it.
Right. Remember, I
Okay.
mentioned it earlier in my report.
Because isn't that on the agenda now, or didn't we just,
So what are we doing with the 2007 Chevy dump truck?
As I mentioned in my report earlier, it's going on for bid with bids due April 12th.
yeah, we already talked about that.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm confused because it's listed here.
This guy put a bid in before we actually put it out to bid.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay, and then the two-wheel drive pickup truck?
Laughable.
Any comments on that one? Okay, so I guess we're agreeing on everything except the command car, the former command car. So we'll get more details on that for the next meeting, Walter?
So we agreed to reject the cruiser, right? We can scrap it for more?
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to make my notes clear.
we're only talking about the pickup.
Pam?
Yes, I just want to say, Walter, I thank you for all you've done with this. I would appreciate seeing the little bit of extra information, but please do bring it back for next meeting about the light bar and all that, just to fulfill that. So, but I just want to thank you for that. Don't give up. Don't give up. Hang in there.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on.
So you're
Uh,
gonna sell the pickup truck to that guy?
No. No, oh, the last one, yeah.
It's got two wheels, but it's only got two wheels.
All these vehicles we're gonna take the name off the side of the truck before we sell it, right?
All except the pickup. It's gonna be
Town employee.
the new selectman's car.
Okay, moving on.
That will pick you up. Prior to the
Police
meeting.
commission resignation
Look
and
on YouTube,
replacement.
it's gonna hit the town.
Hal, you need to vote on whether or not you're going to accept the pickup, and you need to disclose that the offer is from one of the board members who is recusing himself.
Okay, I thought we were doing this by consensus. Okay, my bad.
Well, for transparency purposes,
Just-
Okay.
Mr. Chairman? Oh, good. Go ahead, Hal. Say what you're gonna say, Al.
So you want a motion on that, Walter?
yes,
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to award the bid to Matt Fry, who is a select board member, for the two-wheel drive GMC pickup truck that we put out for bid. Matt had the highest bid at $625. Do I have a motion to accept that bid?
Yes, so moved.
In a second by anybody? Second discussion?
Just knowing that this was obviously a public bid, we followed all the procedures of how to post it, and Mr. Fry, as a town citizen, also had the right to bid on it, and he was the highest one.
Right, they were sealed bids. He didn't outbid me by $1 because he knew that I only said 624.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize there was a competition here.
I didn't
Okay.
do it.
So we have a motion and a second to award the bid to Matt. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Beth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes, and good luck.
And Hal is yes. And Matt, I assume you're abstaining.
I will be recusing myself from the vote and the discussion. Yep.
Okay, great.
You're gonna jack it up and put big wheels on it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Either.
And you got to get it inspected. You can't just go by that inspection sticker.
good luck.
Prepared to put a little money into it.
Okay. Police commission resignation and replacement. Do we have a replacement, Walter?
Well, we have a letter here from the police commission addressed to the board that the commission has accepted the resignation of Commissioner Colleen Crockmull, regret and with appreciation for her service to the town. New Hampshire RSA 105-C:3 grants authority to the Board of Selectmen to appoint with a resignation on the commission. When a resignation on the commission occurs, any vacancy occurring on the commission shall be filled by appointment of the Board of Selectmen until the next regular annual town meeting. Scott Breyer is the only person who filed with the town clerk for the position held by Mr. Buckmal, whose term was to expire in March of 2021. He has informed the commission that he will serve before the June election if appointed by the Board of Selectmen. And this is signed respectfully from the Commissioners Rolla and Schlang.
Okay, so basically we have the position opening up with the election. Scott's the only one that was running, and he's volunteering to start early is what it comes down to. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion to appoint Scott for the interim period?
Make a motion to appoint Scott Breyer to the vacant position on the Police Commission with a term set to expire
With the election?
at town election.
We have a second on that? Second, thank you. And any further discussion? Hearing none. Pam, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes, yep.
Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. Okay. Next up is the task manager. I asked Walter to put this on the agenda only so that we keep it in front of us. The idea being that if we sense that our priorities are changing or that we maybe need to move something from one position or another or put more emphasis on it, we have an opportunity to do that relatively frequently. I asked Walter to do that every meeting for the next several. Once we get a little bit more accustomed to this and see how things click off, I think we'll go to monthly, if not quarterly. But at this point, does anybody have any questions or comments about what Walter has on his project list?
Just getting long, that's all.
Yeah. Well, he's been pretty good so far, I have to say. Yeah. And,
As we go along, the completed items will drop off after they've been recognized at a meeting. So it'll shrink and grow over time.
yeah.
Well, he just gave us his 5 or 7 year plan, so he's got to be here that long to get all the list done, so.
Well, he'll get it done sooner than that, at least the ones on the current list. Well, if you take a look at the list, this is part of what I was saying. He has targeted completion dates. None of them go beyond this year.
Just a cable.
So-
Well, 2023 cable TV franchise agreement.
That's when it expires.
That's when it expired. That's not when it's
My
done.
bad. It says due date.
Actually start working on that next week.
But the point is, Pam, this is your opportunity to raise those kind of questions.
No, that was a joke.
Oh. Yeah, right over top.
You said there's none after 2021, so I had to point out that.
Yeah, okay.
We could probably add that joke into the town newsletter at some point.
Oh.
Ooh, but
Hey, somebody's pressing my buttons tonight. Okay.
and we can have a
Okay.
conversation.
Any board committee reports at this point?
I missed the last meeting, but Beth discussed that we met obviously with Gary Tasker, and we're trying to get a calendar or some book. And I talked to a few townspeople, Greg from Northwood Oil Company, Mr. Bain there, Greg, and like we look at those wood nickels, that we have that so much like the picture book a calendar. We also found, I got a picture of it, but it's bad lighting. It's an old poster from, what year was that, Beth? I can't remember, but it has it was like the Northwood Men's League baseball team scheduled on it, right in the middle. But then all around it was like Custer Cabana, Weather Guard, and
all the
still Northwood Oil, Hard Metals, the Well Company, Jeff and Danny. So there's so many businesses on that are still in business, MD Tasker and all those guys.
Yeah.
So we're trying to maybe print an old one and then go around and make a new one, maybe put the town phone numbers, the websites in the middle of it, kind of reenact it. So
That's
Gary's got a lot
cool.
of good pictures, good ideas. So
That's great, great. And I guess just to go back to what Beth brought up earlier, there is funds under that bicentennial funding to do some improvements to town hall, and they could. What's that? I can't see it.
well,
Oh,
that's the brochure of everything.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
like 30 on there, and probably 10 or 12 of them are still in business today.
Wow.
So
Yeah. So, going back to that, then, think about using some of those funds from that bicentennial fund dividends to help support some of those things. Okay, anything else for committee reports? If not, then I'll open it up for citizens forum. I'm not hearing anything or seeing anything. So, Walter, do we need any non-public tonight?
No, not for me. And I don't have any emails or phone calls.
Okay, if that's the case, then I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Whoa, amazing. Tim, look, it's not even 8:15, Tim.
yeah, no, I got
You
something.
can say, you guys can stay on and chit chat if you want, but I'm dropping off.
Yeah, a motion to adjourn.
How about a second?
Second.
Okay, we're gonna do it by show of hands. Okay, great.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
Behind the
evening.
seal.
You're welcome.
Great,
Good
great.
night.
Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.